This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast, all things Cleveland sports, with your host, John Suchan. Well, good afternoon, good day, good evening, whatever time of day it is. We are recording this on Saturday, May 17th, 2025. This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast. I'm your host, John Suchan. Welcome aboard, where we talk the Cleveland Browns and other Cleveland teams here on the Fanatical Elves Network, part of Fans First Sports Network. Thank you again for following along. The Fans First group has been great. We've the Fanatical Elves group, we've been part of this team for the last 2 years and really have just enjoyed all of their help, their support. And, we've got a great group of contributors. I say this every time I can. And please tune in to some of the other guys' and the ladies' shows that are throughout our network. From the Burning River Browns Talk with Lou Marconi, Ethan Greenberg with his Best Doggone podcast, along with Heather. Sherry is on there with the Burning River Browns Talk as well. Steve Gill with the Dog Pound South show. Rod Bloom with his Browns Blitz. Our youngster, gosh dang it, Sam with the Browns Breakdowns. Jarrell Flint with his Dog Food Radio programming. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out at some point. Oh, Joel Cater, who started with our group, was What the Elf Was That? So thank you again to all of them to contribute here on the Fanatical Elves Network. This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast, where we talk all sorts of things. And today, the Brownies front and center. It's we had the rookie camp with all the youngsters, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel getting quite the all the conversation. If you look at headlines, I just looked at that again earlier to see if there's anything popping, but all the headlines have to do with Sanders and Gabriel. So funny. Everyone's all over the place with their predictions on who's going to do what. Folks are asking, why do the Browns have 4 quarterbacks? What are they going to do with them? Some folks are saying we should start Sanders or Gabriel because they're the rookies. Others say, no, we need to go with the veterans in Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett. Probably personally, with all the stuff that's been happening, bringing in, if Joe Flacco is still with this team at the beginning of the season, I would go with Joe because he is the veteran to sort of let those rookies slide into the position. I would not put that type of pressure on either one of these guys. I heard Dan Orlovsky, the kid from ESPN, talking, and he just yapping, and I just don't. He's talking about starting Sanders or Gabriel. That type of thinking just does not make much logic to me at this point. Dylan Gabriel, by the way, Dylan Gabriel spells his first name Dylan without an I. It's Dillon. So if any of you try to look it up, found that out. I always, that's kind of an unusual spelling. Kids these days, they have unusual spelling with their names. It's as a school personnel staff member, counselor, I come across many names, and you have to really check those spellings. So who's going to be the starter? Again, I'm thinking Joe Flacco. I know some of our colleagues think it could be Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett is a first-round draft pick, and he's still pretty young, 26. So, that potentially could be the guy as well. Who knows? None of us know right now. It's May 17th. Had an interview with Kevin Smith, part of the Fans First Sports Network and the Pittsburgh group, was on his programming early in the week, and he's actually going to be on our programming on Tuesday. We're going to do another one of these Johnny Cleveland podcasts, and I look forward to talking to him on that show because he had an opportunity. He's had opportunities to get to know Kevin Stefanski. I know he's gotten to do an interview about a year ago, and then most recently he was at the combine, the NFL combine in Indianapolis, and he had the opportunity to have lunch with him and Tommy Rees, which I'm anxious for him to talk about that on our show and to give some insight. But I do know, and we've talked about this a little bit on his show, and we talked again about it on the Fanatical Elves show last Thursday, that Stefanski was very enamored, Andrew Berry, with Dylan Gabriel up front and center. They like his accuracy. They like his decision making. They obviously have Shedeur Sanders, and I think they feel similarly about Sanders, but I think they have they don't, as far as that decision making, I think they want to kind of work with that on him. But, you get all sorts of these reports coming out of camp, and like we said, everybody's all over the place. Some people think that Sanders knocked it out of the park. Others think that Gabriel knocked it out of the park. We'll see how it all ends up. The preseason games, obviously, I don't think you're going to see a lot of either if Joe Flacco or Pickett are still with the team. And I say that because there are other teams that are going to be in some positions that they may need a quarterback, like the New Orleans Saints. So we can speculate all we want right now, but nobody really knows how it's all going to shake down. So we'll wait, we'll see. And the thing that I've been saying, and I wrote an article about a week ago just about this quarterback situation, and I just find it refreshing after all of the crap that we've been going through for the last several seasons with the Deshaun Watson saga. It's nice to get a few new faces, a few new voices in here, younger voices, kids with some youth and kids with some inexperience, but willing to work. And I'm anxious to see how it all pans out. We think back to some of the other younger talent that's come through here, like a Johnny Manziel. And I know a lot of us were very excited when he came to town, 10, 11 years ago, but that obviously was a disaster. Johnny Manziel is not a Shedeur Sanders. I know some people don't like some of the things that Shedeur Sanders does with his swagger and whatnot, but the kid is a confident kid. His father is Deion Sanders. So let's not try to compare a Sanders kid to somebody old in the past, like a Johnny Manziel. Completely different backstories, and everybody has their story. And so that's, we've learned that about these players. It may not pan out for either one of these guys, but we should have some optimism here as Cleveland fans. We always do this time of year, right? We always do. So it's not unusual to be so optimistic as Browns fans, but, then it all hits you when the season starts. Now, last year, I don't think we talked about it, like, what if this team doesn't get off to a good start? I would say that quite often on my show to the Fanatical Elves Network and my contributors there. What if the team doesn't get off to a great start, and that it all just crumbled last year? But again, so many things were happening last year. There were a lot of injuries. There was the whole cloud of Deshaun Watson hanging over this team, and that has been eliminated. That's gone. And those of you out there in the national media who don't pay attention to Cleveland sports, who still want to talk about how Watson's part of this team, he's not. So we're not listening to you guys because you don't really, it's not a factor. We already know that as fans who follow this team closely. Deshaun Watson is gone. It was a swing and a miss, like Jimmy Haslam reported a few weeks ago. Change the subject, but I was dabbling in this whole AI stuff. So if you follow me on the X or on Facebook or whatnot, you'll notice that I changed my profile picture to one of those beautiful baby photos with the AI, and I'm actually working on the videos now that everyone is producing. It's crazy. I'm an old guy, so this is a little bit, all of this new, this chat GPT is just so crazy. So we're going with it. And so if you get a chance, you check out my profile photo there on the X on Facebook, and hopefully you like it. Found an old photo of me from about 10 years ago that I used for some of my school photos. And funny story there, if you check the photo that I have, is I have an orange shirt on. Long story short, It was one of my favorite shirts. Wore it a lot, as a teacher, as a counselor. When I went to a new school district, I had been out in Kansas, moved back here to Ohio. And one of my first experiences at I will not disclose the name of the school district or the school, but, teachers and staff, they get those beginning of the year photos, right? Just like the kids. And you oftentimes will use those photos on like your school ID or things like that. So this is what happened at this other school. And it was right around the holiday season, right when we just came back from the holidays or right around that time. And one of my colleagues that will rename nameless inquired of me having my photo retaken because I had been wearing an orange shirt, and in this person's eyes, it was a shirt that is usually, that color shirt is worn in places that where folks are imprisoned. And so it was a very unusual request. So they had me do the photo shot again, which is silly. It's really one of my favorite photos. It's one of my wife's favorite photos. So just too funny. So if you see the photo, the new baby picture of me with the orange shirt, there's a little backstory to that. All right. So the Browns, we got opportunities, and that's all we're asking. This last night, I know they had this big shindig where Sanders and all the other rookies kind of introduced their jerseys. I'm kind of interested in this Junkins. I'm thinking of this Junkins could be the next really good, solid running back here for the Brownies, and maybe get a jersey for him. I think he's number 10, and just excited about this 1-2 punch with Junkins and Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. I think this is going to really be something to look forward to here in Cleveland as Browns fans, and another reason to be optimistic. Harold Fannin, the tight end that was drafted out of Bowling Green, just signed his contract. So slowly but surely, these players are signing their initial contracts. And Harold Fannin could really be another 1-2 punch with David Njoku, who's the veteran's been here 8 or 9 years already. So looking at that as a real positive. So lots of things to be optimistic about. So let's keep that hope, Browns fans. You never know. You never know. Every season could be different. I did see yesterday that Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers got some outrageous contract again. It's completely outrageous that like everybody on this list of high paid quarterbacks sucks. Mostly they're on bad teams. Now the 49ers aren't a bad team, but if you look at the rest of the list of some of these other quarterbacks, like a Trevor Lawrence, these teams traditionally have been really, really crappy. Now we want the Jacksonville Jaguars to be really, really crappy for the Cleveland Browns so that potentially they get a high draft pick, because remember, they have the extra draft pick that they got with the Mason Graham when they traded out of the number 2 slot with the Travis Hunter deal and ended up taking Mason Graham. They picked up the extra first rounder. So we do want Jacksonville to suck. I wanted to talk a little bit about this schedule here. Let me find this real quick. So I'm going to share this. This is our schedule we talked about the other day on our Fanatical Elves Network. We talked about it on Stirring the Pot with Lou Marconi and Ethan Greenberg. And just kind of wanted, if you haven't seen this schedule, I know a lot of people are breaking it down, and is it a hard schedule? Is it an easy schedule for the Brownies? They open the season against the Cincinnati Bungles with Joe Schmo, and it's a winnable game. 2 years ago, if you remember, they did open the season against the Bungles again. It was a little dreary, rainy. We talked about that the other day. Not Flash Gordon. Myles Garrett was all over the place in that game, harassing Joe Burrow. So I see that as a win. Now, that second week, they go to the Ratbirds, play Baltimore. I know it's a lot of us might say that that's a loss. Not going to say it's not, but you never know. It's early in the year. The Browns have nothing to lose this season. Nothing. Most people are projecting that they're only going to win 4, 5, maybe 6 games this season. They're coming off of a 3-win season. A lot of people are annoyed that they don't have any primetime games. Suck it up, Browns fans. Suck it up. They do have a game over in England where they play the Minnesota Vikings. In week 3, they play the Packers, a home game, winnable game. They go to the Detroit Lions. They're the Lions. I know they've been pretty good the last several years, but they're Detroit. They go out to England. Who knows? They play the Vikings. The Vikings will have played the Squealers the week before in England, so the Vikings have the advantage of being over there for a couple of weeks. When the Browns return, some people are also predicting this is an automatic loss of the Squealers when they go to Pittsburgh. The Browns could have had a bye that week, but they had a choice in the league, allowed them to have the week 9 bye instead, which comes up several weeks later. The Dolphins, they get at home. They go to play the Patriots. The last time we went to go play the Patriots, we got blown out. I don't know if you remember that. That was a crazy game. They get the bye, then they got to go on the road to play the Jets, back home against the Ratbirds. They go the Ratbirds, and then they go on the road. They play out there to Vegas again. So tough stretch. But then the last stretch, again, these look like tough games. The 49ers, tough. Titans, Cam Ward, that'll be interesting time because it's going to be Cam Ward and potentially Shedeur Sanders. They go to Chicago, then return home to play the Bills and the Squealers, both home games. Weather's going to be interesting, and they go on the road to play at Cincinnati. The Bungles, who like to sell old TVs, and they have garage sales at their stadium. It's an interesting time to be in Ohio, and the Browns are looking at building a new stadium. By the way, that's what came out. The Haslams came out again this week and basically told everybody we're going to be building the stadium regardless of your support or not from the county of Cuyahoga and the city of Cleveland. So it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. Browns fans who are pissed off and want to have the advantage of an occasional snowy day. Yeah, great, but it really hasn't helped this team in the terms of wins and losses long term. Yeah, there's been a few occasions that it paid off. The game against Pittsburgh last year was memorable because Jameis Winston with the touchdown late in that game in the snowy conditions. But a year before that, they played the New Orleans Saints, and they got Deshaun Watson, was terrible. And the Saints, who play in a dome, came into Cleveland when it was a frozen tundra and beat us. So look forward to the Dome. Look forward to a Super Bowl coming to Cleveland. Yes, maybe we won't be in that Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl will be played in Cleveland. NCAA basketball tournaments, the national championship game. So lots of things down the road here for Cleveland fans. By the way, I'm feeling pretty old. I work in schools, and I don't know about you, but I saw the incoming preschoolers or whatnot here in our school district. It said, welcome to the class of 2038. 2038. Oh, my Lord. And then these are before soon, it's going to be 2050. And then it's going to be 2100. And you're going like, what the hell? So time's flying. The class of 2038, welcoming these youngsters. Oh, boy. Feeling old. All right. Let's pause here for a quick commercial break here on the Johnny Cleveland podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network and the Fanatical Elves. Hey, thanks for returning to the Johnny Cleveland podcast. We want to thank Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. They shake the hand of the farmer. We love their support. Go click on the link on the X page, where if you buy coffee, you'll support our programming here on the Fanatical Elves Network. Thank you very much. Hard week if you're a Cleveland fan with the Cavaliers taking it on the chin and losing in 5 games to the Indianapolis Pacers. The Indiana Pacers. Not the Indianapolis Pacers, the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers, who made it to the Eastern Conference Final a year ago, are going back to now play the New York Knicks. Yeah, the Boston Celtics got upset also by the New York Knickerbockers, and so it'll be the Knickerbockers against the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card. There's been a lot of slack about Cleveland, of course, blowing it. And the Cavs, it is, and it's not a mystery. There were several players that were injured. And the Kendrick Perkins jackass in the NBA who's out there spewing crap about how Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and DeAndre Hunter were all faking their injuries. You can kiss my ass. This guy is an idiot. These guys had legitimate injuries. And if you can't figure out and you think they're faking it, you're just a moron. And you're just a stupid person spewing crap. So stop it and don't listen to that idiot. He's not worth listening to. So the Cavs, I'm as disappointed and shocked, not shocked, but I'm thoroughly disappointed that they could not at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I thought with the change in coaching, and I have high marks for Kenny Atkinson, and I think that he's a far better coach than JB Bickerstaff. And I know some of you will disagree with that, but JB Bickerstaff was not taking this Cleveland team or any team beyond the first or second round of any playoffs. Based on what we all saw throughout the year, and again, it's the regular season, 64 wins is a lot in the NBA, but it doesn't mean jack squat if you get beat again like they just did. There are a lot of people talking about this Cavs team being soft. There are a lot of people talking about Jarrett Allen being soft. Evan Mobley, should he have been even better and stronger? We've seen some good development by this kid, but was it enough? The sidekick players, the bench players, Dean Wade, Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome didn't get into they didn't put him into the game in game 5 until the fourth quarter. Some people are complaining about that. Why didn't they put him in there? He usually does better at home. He did some good things in that fourth quarter of that game. But again, it just came down to it. Basketball is a game of runs. It's a game of matchups. That game 2 that the Cavs had a big lead was monumentally rough on this team, and it really set the tone for the rest of the series. If they climb out of that with a win and the game it's 1-1 going back to Indiana, I think that maybe the Cavs are in a different position today. But the Pacers, you got to give them some credit. They run downhill. They're rough and tough. They don't stop, and they're relentless. And you got to give some kudos to that team. They were there in the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago. We were not. So even though people talk about Cleveland having the upper hand and being the number 1 seed, and I know they had the number 1 seed, to be very perfectly honest, if you're honest with yourself, that the veteran team in that series were really the Pacers. Now, I know Cleveland has the talent, but they didn't come with it. And Donovan Mitchell can only do so much. Darius Garland, missing a couple games, it especially that second game where, maybe he makes the difference. But again, these games, the Cavs lost 3 home games against the Pacers. 3, not 1, not 2, but 3. And in 2 of those games, they had a huge lead. I made the mistake of turning the game on in game 5. They had a 19-point lead right when I turned it on. And then from that point on, so it's my fault, folks. It's my fault. It's my fault that the Cavs are losing, right? Don't you feel that way sometimes as a Cleveland fan? You turn the game on, you listen to it on the radio, and then all sorts of hell starts to break out, and you're like, oh shit, I caused it, right? You're that important. I'm that important. Not. So it was a tough way for the Cavs to go out. It's going to hurt. What they do in the offseason, you're getting mixed reports where the Cavs go after the big, tall center there, Gio, from the Milwaukee Bucks. Will they stand pat? There's been a lot of conversation around Jarrett Allen. I've met Jarrett Allen, and he's a great guy. And if anybody says anything different about him or want to accuse him of being soft, so be it. But you're an idiot. you're an idiot for, bashing a good kid. And if you want, I'd like you to go out there on the court any night and try to play the game of basketball. Just try. Jared Allen is a great guy. And for whatever reason, it's not that the spotlight is too bright for him or the lights are too bright for him. It just didn't work out. And you can blame it on him, but you can blame it on everybody else. And you can blame it on the coaching. I don't think Atkinson did a good enough job of his rotations and what he was doing. I didn't get a sound feel for what exactly he was trying to do. He was inconsistent, which surprised me. He kind of would always stay with that steady, during the regular season, you kind of knew exactly when, and I think the players knew when everything was going to be happening. And he kind of worked that into the playoffs, but that game 5, that game 4 were weird. If you look at the box scores and see who they were playing, and I know Sam Merrill got injured, just odd. And I think he's got some growing to do. I think they will be better. I think Kenny Atkinson will grow as a coach. I think this is a really interesting situation for him, and anxious to see how they work out the kinks. I think they will. I definitely think the Cavs will be back. If they can't get to that Eastern Conference final next year, it'll be tough again. But, you think about all these old teams that the Cavs used to have, back in the mid 80s and into the early 90s with Mark Price and Brad Daugherty and the teams that they played against the Chicago Bulls all the time. I mean, we would be on the doorstep all those years. Remember that, Cleveland fans? You remember that if you were old enough like me. So this is not, unusual. And we're so impatient as fans these days. I'm impatient. You're impatient. You don't like to go through a period of 5 or 6 years to try to climb the mountain to get to the championship, but that's what you got to do sometimes. Sometimes you get magic, and like the Bungles made it to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but that doesn't happen very often. So you have to work towards it, and we'll see what happens. But it was a disappointing way to end the season, and none of us are really happy about it. But we move on because we are hardy Cleveland fans. Finally, the Guardians are playing the Cincinnati Reds down there in Cincinnati. They took it on the chin themselves. Last night, lost 5-4, got down early, tried to fight back, but could not quite get the victory. They are still in a pretty good spot. They've been winning more than they've been losing, but the other teams like the Kansas City Royals and the Detroit Tigers are on top of the division right now. Last I looked, I think Cleveland was like 3 or 4 games back in the standings, but they're playing well. Their pitching is somewhat up and down, but as we get into June here and then July, we'll have to see and monitor their success. But, well, folks, that's it that I've got on this evening edition on this Saturday, May 17th. I wish all of you a very, very good rest of your weekend. I know there are many graduation celebrations starting. We have our graduations at my school coming up in the next week or two, as many of you will be celebrating that. So be safe out there. Be careful. Go Browns. Go Cleveland. And remember to, that's right, keep smiling. Take care, everybody.